I've begun work on the back panel to my day pack, and I want to add any features that I can now before sewing on these compression straps that will attach the lid to the back panel. One feature that I wanted was a hydration hose port above the shoulder straps. I decided not to do one that would open and close with a hook and loop flap like on my Black Hawk bag, and instead I decided to imitate one that I saw on many of the Savada Jacari packs. This was actually really easy to do. I started by drawing a 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch square and drew an X in the middle of that, and I used a razor to cut along the lines of the X. After that, I put a piece of double-sided basting tape along all four sides of the square, and the X left me with 4 triangles in the middle of that square, and I basically cut the tips off of those triangles. I folded the triangles in half and folded them in half again against the basting tape, which were then held in place by the basting tape. From there, I could have simply sewn a seam along all 4 sides of that square, and that would have given me a rolled hem, and that would have been fine. That's how it was on the Jacari pack, but I decided that I wanted to try putting a piece of grosgrain ribbon folded around the square. That's not easy to do. I figured it wouldn't be, and it didn't turn out as good as I hoped, but it actually did turn out better than I expected. Like I said, you don't need to do that step, but I decided that I wanted to try it at least. So after I had that piece of grosgrain ribbon sewed onto the outside of that square, and to achieve that, I went really slow. I pretty much hand cranked my sewing machine the entire time. So after that, I just cut 2 pieces of this 1-inch heavy-duty woven elastic, set one down, set the other one down, sort of overlapping it, and then sewed a seam along each side of the square again. So that's gonna allow a hydration hose to be passed in between these 2 pieces of woven elastic. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. And then it'll come outside the pack just above the 2 shoulder straps. Another task that I needed to get out of the way was to tack on the components for hanging a hydration bladder to the inside of this inside panel. So if I flip this over, this will be inside the bag in between the back panel and the inside divider. I considered a few different options on how to hang a hydration bladder inside of this pack. I have all kinds of plastic hooks and hardware that I could have used, but I decided to keep things real simple. What I ended up doing was taking a couple pieces of 1/2-inch grosgrain ribbon, and I had a 1-inch square of hook and loop, and I cut the square in half, so I had 2 1/2-inch pieces. I sewed the loop end to one side of the grosgrain and the hook end to the other, so that it folds in such a way
to make one continuous loop that attaches in the middle. And then I tacked that loop to this inside divider, and I made sure that it was the length of the grosgrain ribbon that I chose was based on, I wanted one side of it to disappear within the seam that's going to be sewn when this divider is sewn to the back panel, and I wanted it to hang down just past the zipper. So I made 2 of those loops, sewed them about 4 inches apart, and then I took a piece of 3/4 inch webbing, gave it a half twist in the middle, and then sewed it right in the middle of those two loops. This is basically the same design that was on the inside of my Black Hawk assault pack, and I decided to basically copy that design. This looks like it should easily accommodate the 1.5 to 2 liter hydration bladder that I plan on purchasing specifically to use in this pack. And as I mentioned, there will be a second seam that will be going across all of these components for added strength. I also took the time I went ahead and sewed a seam to close up the ends of this mesh pocket. Originally I was just going to leave that open and allow the seam that will be connecting the different panels of the backpack together, that would basically disappear into that seam, but I decided that for added strength to make sure that's not going to be ripped out, I went ahead and closed it up with a seam. It just seemed to make more sense.